Well, obviously, for our guys to be able to continue to work and grow and learn as they have here over the last 4 or 5 weeks, I always thought that they were making steps in the right direction. It was a matter of continuing to be more consistent, to be able to continue to execute at a higher level what we've been working on. And I thought for the most part we did that today. I thought we were far from perfect and on the glass. There's obviously one thing there with 15 offensive rebounds, but that's obviously Michigan State's a big part of their DNA and how they play. But I thought a great atmosphere. Just happy for our guys to be able to find a way. To be able to rally from back down 5, whatever it was at that point, with 3 minutes to go, and for our two leaders, obviously for Nigel and Bronson, because they're in a position we've never not had a senior on the floor. So for them, roles have changed, identities have changed, and that's been a season-long thing. But for them to grow through that, and obviously numbers are one thing, but I'm happy of how they've handled the locker room and how they're continuing to be messengers of the coaching staff and just the whole group, how it's bonded together and gotten tighter and tighter as we've gone forward here. It was good for us to, obviously, we have to get to the line, and we did today. I thought we could have been there even more, and we left a few points at the line. But for the most part, really happy for our guys in terms of giving them something as a stepping stone to continue to build upon. And we'll find plenty of things. The over and under already in the locker rooms, that'll find 80 clips in a game today that we'll have to work on and get better. That's what they were saying already. But like I said, happy for our guys, happy for our fans. With that, I will take your questions.
Jeff. Greg, are you a believer that teams, especially with new makeup personnel, have to learn how to perform in these situations to break through and finally be able to win games like this consistently?
Well, experience is always a great teacher, and you've probably heard me say that many times, that we can practice things, we can do situations, down 1 with 10 seconds to go, and for 10 days in a row in practice, and it doesn't come up in the game, or it's not the exact situation. We can show things on film, which we've done more than ever through the last 5 weeks, not only game but practice footage. But I think experience is a great teacher, and for these guys to having battled and been so close in all these other games that everybody has obviously seen, for them to be able to we were just a little bit better in possessions. Did we play any differently? No, we were still trying to do the same things, but we were a little bit better in terms of how we executed in certain times. We were far from perfect, as I mentioned before, but we're stepping in the right direction, and I think the experience of those other situations and looking at things on film. We've looked at the end of game situations, even at Northwestern when it was a 5 or 6 point game, how if there was more time on the clock, here's what we would be doing. So if we're ever in that situation again, this is how we can apply it. So it's been constant messaging and teaching, regardless of the situation we've been in.
Jim.
Greg, you guys have had other endgame possessions where obviously things didn't go as well. Did you think this one went about as well as from Bronson and Ethan's patience once he kind of, lost it underneath for a second? Vito's pick, was that about as well as you could have hoped it?
Well, we had a situation. It was 10 or whatever was left under 13 on the clock at the time, knowing that we were either going to have to get a turnover off the press, get a jump ball because the arrow was our way, or we are going to have to foul. And if we foul, obviously you had the risk is you're down 3 when you come back down. So we had 2 different things called: one if we're down only 1 or 2, and something else called if we were down 3. And then obviously it turned out how it did, so we went to option A, being only down 1. But you got a good point guard. You let him put the ball in his hands and let him make a play. And then he had options off of that, and he found one of his options. And Ethan is. It's not a secret. Ethan is growing and learning around the rim and how to play through contact. And I haven't seen the replay yet, but I know he had a lot of contact in there. It was good for him to finish that and use the other side of the rim, and then we had to scramble back. You can't celebrate because obviously they come back right at you. So I thought we did a pretty good job. Obviously the ball goes in, it makes it look better, but we've executed other times and the ball doesn't go in. Or we didn't complete the possession like we did today.
Greg, was Bronson more assertive offensively and looking for his shot, especially early on, to kind of get help Nigel get things going?
Well, that's part of Bronson's growing process. Is I've asked him to be more aggressive with the ball and play more north and south, and not as much east and west. And some of the things we've added offensively for him, and to try to encourage that and feed that mindset. But I think he, and we've looked at a lot of things on film in terms of where he could have been more aggressive, and then I've tweaked some things too to really put that on his plate and ask that of him. So that's part Bronson to continue to grow, and part what we've seen where we need to get better at.
Coach, going to the full court press last first time you did the all game, did you see something that you thought you could exploit, or what were you trying to do with that? Did it work out just like you called it up, or?
We were down 1 with 10 seconds to go. I mean, I can't let them run out the clock.
I know, but what were you looking for? Did you
Well, either steer. No, we were either going to try to get a steal, get a trap if it was in the corner, or we had to foul. We pressed at Northwestern the last 2 minutes and 40 seconds, had 4 turnovers and didn't get any points out of it. So we had options today where, if we're in that situation, if we can get a turnover, great. A jump ball is just like a turnover because the arrow was in our favor. And then the third option was we're going to have to foul. And then, even if they make both, you still have a chance to tie with a 3. So, and credit to our guys too, because I had no timeouts left. So all those situations were discussed in that last 30-second timeout in terms of what we were going to do based on, it was a full, the last one I called when we scored, when Bronson hit the 3. So they all stayed on the same page, which is a step in the right direction, because it's we've had to work through that and making sure as we adjust on the fly in timeouts, that everybody's on the same page.
Greg, this has been such a weird, emotional month and a half for you. I'm curious if you can walk me through, not to overstate it, but like the darkness of the past couple weeks where you guys can't get a big win, and then the emotions of being able to get a win against number 4 team in the country.
Well, for me, it hasn't been the last month. It's been the last 7 months, with everything with my dad. That's been the darkness. This hasn't been any darkness. I mean, these guys are young college players. We've got, like I mentioned before, our roster makeup. We've got young guys that are learning on the fly. And I never viewed this as adversity in terms of going through this. I knew we were going the right direction. I knew and trust the plan we have in place, and how it's been done here, and trying to get our younger guys to continue to take steps forward in that process. And that's the only thing I've always encouraged with them is don't worry about the results. Just embrace the process and make progress every single day. And if we continue to do that, then then good things will happen. So that it ends up being in this position in this game, that we got a little further along in the process, and we're still not anywhere. We still not have an end result. The process, and I talked to them about, it's part life skills too, in terms of process that we go through, and it'll never end in terms of the change or the challenge for them to get better every day. And just like I'll challenge them tomorrow when we get to practice.
Greg, just a quick follow-up, if you wouldn't mind. This is kind of an upside-down, weird year in college hoops and in the Big Ten. I'm curious, I know they're in a 4-loss hole, but what do you see as the ceiling for this team, in the next couple months?
Well, I just hope we're better tomorrow. That's the main thing. I keep my focus pretty narrow in terms of, are we better tomorrow? Are we going to be better on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then get ready for Penn State? We have to play there on Thursday. So I don't get too caught up in terms of where we need to. I know where we need to be, and I know where we can be, but I'm not going to let myself get ahead of the process, let alone let our guys get ahead of that process. So for me to look further down the road and worry about who we have to play and where this team needs, I've never, and I think it's really changed since I've become a head coach, that you just worry about tomorrow. And you make sure you're doing everything you can to help these guys get better and take a step forward. And then you worry about that the next day. Because if I have enough right now just worrying about tomorrow, looking through the film and everything I'll have to pick out and then prepare for Penn State. If I try to go too far down the road, I'm doing my guys a disservice and our team a disservice by not keeping them as focused on today and now tomorrow as much as possible.
Bath.
Free throws have been such a big issue, whether missing them or, like you said, not getting to the line enough. Totally opposite today. How big was that today, and do you think that that's going to be even more important now moving forward?
Well, we have to just, I mean, it's obviously if we can touch the post, it's a high percentage shot. We have to finish around the rim better. I think we could still finish even better than we did today, and we can get to the line more than we did today. But the encouraging part is that the guys are making an attempt to play out of the post. And I always tell them we don't have to shoot it from in there, but it's a great place to facilitate from and make plays from. So if we have a couple guys that are pretty good in there and we can touch them and they can make plays from within, and then other guys we can run some actions around that, that's great. But I'm encouraged by they haven't flinched in terms of my demand for them to throw the ball inside, even though when it wasn't working at times, when we were leaving points at the rim. I mean, we've left a lot of points at the rim in some of those bumps we've taken and at the free throw line. So you got to continue to do it and continue to push forward and get better at it. And we had the bags out this week in practice being real physical, and it wasn't because we were playing Michigan State. It was because we needed to get better around the rim. So we have to, with this, the DNA of this team, we have to play inside out and try to get to the free throw line as much as possible.
Jeff? Greg, on that trap where you guys got the turnover, if I'm correct, it was Happ and Khalil Iverson on that trap. Sometimes kids can get handsy and hack maybe when they're not supposed to. Are you surprised they held their poise there until Harris made the mistake?
No, because we've worked on that a little bit. We had a lot of experience down at Northwestern with it for about 2 minutes, so they understood. And I think Khalil's played in that position a lot. His instincts are really good in pressure situations like that, or where you got to extend, and the play he made the other night at Northwestern with the steal and behind the back pass. So he's good in those environments, and obviously bringing a guy 6'9" coming to squeeze on the ball, and they did a good job of chesting up and making it hard for them to get out of that trap. And then I have to look. I was standing right by it, so I couldn't see with my back to the rest of the action how we had covered behind that and take away. There's rules that they have to follow. The other three guys have rules too. It's not just the two guys that are in the trap. So they did a good job of that. And we actually had it at the end of the first half too. When Ethan was on the line, we tried to throw it on there too, just to see if we could slow him up a little bit or create something there. So good job of executing in a short amount of time. We quickly had to get to it.
Anything else for Coach? All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks.